Marcus Smart looking. Kennard to win the game. Yes! 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 Marcus Smart looking. Kennard to win the game. Yes! Yes! Yes!
What is going on, everybody? Good morning. Good morning. Sometimes you just got to start out the show with a quick little three-point shot to just kind of show how the Lakers continue to find themselves in a pretty incredible position. 9-game winning streak. Just a quick little Luka Kennard three-pointer. No big deal. I hope everybody's having a nice Monday morning. A lot going on here on my end. I got to be honest with you. I was trying to kind of figure out, hey, how do I play all this all at once? It looks like I was able to do it. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Solo this morning. Got no producer this morning. Like it's the first day of school. Do so much work. Hopefully everybody had a really nice weekend, and we got some more Lakers basketball coming up tonight. So there is really no breaks right now in that Lakers schedule. I got a full show lined up for everybody. I do have an interview today as well, so I'm going to be playing an interview as well. So we got a lot to get into. Thank you very much for being here. If it's the first time you've been on the channel, where the hell you been? If you're always on the channel, welcome back. You know, I got a good problem. I got a pretty good amount of people who come to the channel and subscribe, but I still got about, 38% of you that come to the channel and do not subscribe. Help us get to 35,000 subscribers. If you like the channel, you support the channel, it's a great way of doing so. Here's what we got going on for the day, or for the show today. 9 straight wins for the Los Angeles Lakers. So we'll look back a little bit at the game against the Orlando Magic. We'll look back at Luka Kennard hitting that game winner to give their Lakers that 9th win in a row. Lakers down 2. Obviously, Luka Kennard hits the 3. Kind of a lot of talk over the weekend about Luka Doncic and is his technical going to get rescinded? Obviously a lot going on in regards to that. His technical got rescinded. If I'm being honest with you, I was a little surprised. I don't know how that works. I have no idea how that works, but it was rescinded. So the Lakers will have Luka Doncic tonight against the Detroit Pistons. So obviously some really good news there. Also good news for Pistons fans that just want to freaking watch the Lakers play and they want to see Luka Doncic in the process. They're going to get a chance to see Luka. So Luka will be in the game. LeBron's new role, we'll talk a little bit about that. There was a couple good articles on LeBron over the weekend about how he's embraced his new role, how he's actually doing in that new role, and still continuing to put up, obviously, some great numbers for the Lakers in that process. I don't know if you guys have seen the rest of the schedule for the Lakers in the month of March and really the rest of the season, but the Lakers really do have a phenomenal opportunity to lock up that number 3 seed based off of how they play over this next 2 weeks or so. And I know people are going to look at it and say, is it really that big of a deal? They've done this before. Look what they did last season. In some ways, there are a lot of similarities to how last season went and how this season has gone. But I do think this team is better. And like I said, there'd be nothing better for the Lakers with a week left in the regular season. Lock up that number 3 seed and just have nothing to worry about from there. And then you could start focusing on whoever your first-round opponent's going to be. You could start resting guys, things along those lines. So we'll get into that. Hunter Patterson, who covers the Detroit Pistons for The Athletic. So this one's going to be a little bit different. Recorded him a little bit earlier because I know he's going to be at, I think it's a Pistons practice or something like that, scheduling-wise. So I'll probably throw that interview up at about 8:30. So obviously we're going to be previewing tonight's game against the Pistons. So I will play that, and then I'll come back on after that interview is done, and NBA news weekend recap, and then we'll call it a day. So appreciate everybody being here. Thank you for hanging out on this Monday. Hopefully everybody enjoyed the weekend and is ready for another week in front of them. Shout out to all our listeners. Shout out to all our members. Thank you all for being here. And I got some news as we go through the show that I want to share in regards to a viewing party, a post-game show that I'm going to be doing live from Harris Resort which will be a week from this Thursday after the Lakers play the Oklahoma City Thunder. So I got some great room rates for the night of Thursday, April 2nd, but I only have a certain amount of them. Later this week, I'm going to be giving away some room nights as well. But we're going to get some freaking listeners to come out. You guys are going to hang out with me on that Thursday, April 2nd. If you do come out, I'll make sure that you guys are well taken care of there over at Harris Resort. I'll be doing my post-game show from there. All right, let's take a look at a few of the comments, and we'll get started here. Let's see what we got here. What are people saying? 3 more games should do it. Let me see here. Is Luka rescinded tech a Lakers bias thing from the league? I don't know enough about this stuff. I really don't, and I don't want to pretend like I do. But I was a little surprised. Now, the details had come out of, what had been said, and based off of that, I'm assuming that's why they rescinded the technical foul. But I don't know what a lot of those conversations are like, amongst these players on a game in, game out basis. Was there a bias towards it? I have no idea. I really don't. I think if you're the league, you really do want, you want Luka playing. And if you're the Pistons, you want to see Luka out there. You only get to see him one time a year. But something, a bias, I'm not sure. Kennard looked like Slee with the shooting stroke. I mean, he's a lefty. I'm a righty, but I know where you're going with this. One of the highest percentages in the league. I know where you're going with this. I know exactly where you're going with this. And it makes sense to me. Maybe it doesn't make sense to anybody else, but it obviously makes sense to me. All right. Let's see what we got here. Is this a thermometer game? No, it's not. Right? You want to know why? Because Cade Cunningham is out. That's why. All right, let's get the show started. Thank you very much for being here. I appreciate you guys being a part of the show. And like I mentioned, if you guys can subscribe to the channel, we'll greatly appreciate that. All right, 9 straight for the Lakers. It's crazy. Every one of these games, there's been a handful of games now where I'm watching the Lakers play. And as the game is going on, I'm like, yeah, they're not going to win this game. I'll go back to the Nuggets game a little bit over a week ago. Was at Crypto. The Lakers, I think at one point went down 5 or 7 points, and Denver's got the ball up 2, and they get fouled, and Aaron Gordon goes to the free throw line, hits 1 of 2. They foul Austin Reed. I mean, I'm just using that game as an example. I thought there were some moments in the Rockets game, the second Rockets game, where I thought, you know what? No, I just don't think this is going to happen. They'll be fine. They already got the first game. They'll split this 2-game series against the Rockets, and they end up winning that game as well. I go to the Miami Heat game, second of a back-to-back. They're down 15 early on. They're down, I want to say 15-2 to start the game, 9-0, something along those lines. I might be off on those scores. And I'm just kind of saying to myself, I'm like, yeah, well, they're clearly not going to win this game. We've had a number of different instances, and I thought the game against the Orlando Magic, there were a couple of times Magic are up 2, they got the ball, and there's been a couple of times where it's kind of like, yeah, the Lakers, they're not going to win this game. And here they are now, 9 wins in a row. Now, here's the thing I will say. I said this a couple of days ago, it might have been on Friday, that I'm no longer counting the Lakers out of any game as far as, well, it's a second of a back-to-back. They flew in at this time, or it's the playing the Rockets, this, that. Now I got to start, giving Lakers the benefit of the doubt if they're also losing in the middle of a game, because they've had kind of some miraculous things go their way over this course of, you want to call it these last couple of weeks or so, last 30 days if you want to call it. And you need some of that if you're going to win 9 games in a row and 12 of 13. You're going to need some stuff to go your way. But that doesn't mean Lakers are getting lucky. It doesn't mean that the Lakers are not good enough to win these games. It just means that other teams are folding, or Lakers just aren't giving up, or Lakers are continuing to play for 48 minutes, or they know, all right, just get a stop here and we'll figure it out. There is a little bit of that, and I'm sure for a lot of people who are consuming the Lakers right now, there's also just an enjoyable product, not just because they're winning. Of course, that has a lot to do with it, but also because it looks good in the process, how hard they're playing, guys stepping up and playing their role. So there's a number of different ways to look at this Lakers team. And clearly for the Lakers, they're doing it. They're making it happen. And it's been impressive to watch them over this last couple of weeks, at least this last month. But I don't know how many different times I've said over this 9-game stretch, I don't think they're going to win that game. That's a second of a back-to-back. They got the Rockets. They already won one of these games. Şengün's coming back. Miami and Orlando. That's tough. They're 4-0 on this 6-game road trip. And of course, they got the Pistons coming up. So really impressive stuff from the Lakers. And if you got a chance to watch the game, obviously on Saturday night, it was just a kind of another unique storyline for the Lakers, and they continue to work themselves up from a Laker perspective, an NBA perspective, and a Western Conference perspective as one of the teams that maybe some of these teams don't want to face in the postseason. Okay, Luke Kennard, real quick. Let me just talk on Luke. I want to talk on Kennard here, and then we can go from there. One other thing on the game against the Magic as well. It really was one of those games where you just assumed this one's probably not in the cards. I mentioned this when I did my post-game show. Appreciate all the support, by the way, for that post-game show. It had phenomenal views. And obviously, there's a lot of Laker fans right now that are just excited to get as much content as possible. But I appreciate you guys looking at this channel and saying, all right, this is where I can get my Lakers content. But the game was set up. I mean, look at some of the stats here I'm going to read you guys, and then I want to get into Luke Kennard. So here's how the game was set up. Luka, 12 of 30. LeBron, 5 of 13. Marcus Smart, 0 of 3. Jake LaRavia, 0 for 5. Lakers shoot 25% from 3. They shoot 66% from the free throw line. I don't see any stats in this game that give anybody any confidence to say, oh, yeah, Lakers are definitely going to win this game. And here they are, obviously making it happen, as they've made it happen here for a number of different games. But this was statistically one of those games where you're like, yeah, Lakers are definitely not winning this game, and they still end up winning it. One of the few players that actually performed well, and one of the few players that did come through for the Lakers, Luke Kennard. So even if you take away that Luke Kennard, obviously his bucket that he gets to end the game with his three-pointer, I think we've talked enough about Luke Kennard, about how good of a pickup that we thought that was at the NBA trade deadline. Probably not talked about enough of how good it looked for Rob Pelinka right now to be sitting in his position, in his situation, and watching the Lakers have some success. But you got also an individual player in Luke Kennard that came through for the Lakers. And I think everybody would agree with this. And the only maybe headache people have with Luke Kennard is there are times they say to themselves, well, why isn't this guy shooting more? Why don't the Lakers run more plays for him? He's an absolute sniper. I don't understand how Luke Kennard gets open at the end of a game. I do understand. Two people went towards Paolo Banchero, went towards LeBron, and Kennard finds himself open. You don't think Luke Kennard's going to find opportunities during the postseason to be, obviously a big-time player for the Lakers? I think he's going to. So on top of the 9 straight wins for the Lakers, pretty cool moment for Luke Kennard. You could see the way the fans or his teammates reacted for him. By the way, am I just tripping here? But you watch those replays. Do you see how many Laker fans are in Orlando? Jesus. I don't know. Maybe this is just it's the franchise and its stars and everything else. But my God, that place was going crazy on Luke Kennard's 3. But a big-time moment there for Luke Kennard. And maybe we should give a little bit more credit towards that trade deadline acquisition from Rob Pelinka. We obviously know what the Lakers gave up in return. They gave up Gabe Vincent, so they're clearly not giving up a ton there. But, a big-time moment for the Lakers, and a big-time moment for Luke Kennard. They get their 9th straight victory. We'll see if they make it 10 tonight. Okay, I know I want to get into some comments, so let's start looking at that, and then we're going to talk Luka, and we'll get into some of the different the angles here on the Luka Doncic piece of this. All right, let's see what we got here. Kennard is who the Lakers thought Dalton was going to turn out. I see the angle here. Honestly, I thought the Lakers were. I thought they got just a good all around basketball player in Dalton Connect when they drafted him, and the way he came out, and he's the steal of the draft, and everybody's having conversation. I remember this was now almost a year and a half ago. It was like November of 2025. I remember putting up content at that time that was just very specific to Dalton Connect, and people were eating up that content. They love that content. Dalton Connect, I haven't honestly until this comment, I don't know the last time I've even mentioned his name. I really don't. I don't remember the last time that I mentioned his name. Let's see what we got here. JJ needs to be careful with all those offensive lineups that can't rebound. They keep getting crushed. Yeah, but I will tell you this. I mean, if we use the game on Saturday as an example, 8 and 9 points, 12 rebounds, 29 minutes. Jackson Hayes, 8.7 rebounds, 19 minutes. For the most part, he's got one of those guys in. Yes, he might go a little bit smaller. That will happen occasionally, but for the most part, I feel like he's got one of those players in at all times. All right, let's see what else we got here. LaRavia needs to get his shot back if he doesn't want to get replaced by Vando. Yeah, that man is truly the definition of it's in his head. He does not look like he wants to touch that basketball or he wants to shoot that ball. This is a good comment right here. It looks like he's scared to shoot big time. I mean, again, nobody's asking him to do anything. The beauty is for Jake LaRavia, nobody needs anything from him. Just go do your job. And his job is to play defense, crash the glass, grab some rebounds, and that's it. That's all they need from him. But when you got point blank shots around the basket, quit panicking. When you got an open corner three, for the love of God, hit the rim. So I know that there's a lot going on there, but we'll see what eventually happens with Jake LaRavia. The good thing is, like I said, all he's got to do is really do his job. He doesn't have to do anything more than that. Grinding out a win is ugly sometimes. You watch enough games, it happens. What's great is how they adapted and trust each other. A team cared to win. Yeah, I hope, I really, really hope nobody took my comment about that's a game statistically they should have lost as a negative thing. I don't think it's a negative thing. I think it's just as important to win the ugly games, just as important to win the games that you don't feel like you're supposed to win, as it is to watch the Lakers shoot 50% from the three-point line and 55% from the field. I think these types of games, the game they played against Orlando where it just wasn't clicking, Luka was struggling from the field. It felt like a couple different times they were probably going to lose that game. The fact that they won that game, that's impressive. Those are just as important. So you could have games where you blow out teams, which the Lakers did against the Knicks and Minnesota. The first game against Houston, they pulled away at the end. Or you could have ugly wins where you grind it out. I don't think it matters. As long as you, and I think it's actually beneficial to have some different styles of wins as you go. So great comments, by the way. Good stuff. A lot of stuff there to, obviously clearly support the topics here. Okay, I'm ready to get into the other topic, which is the Luka conversation. Luka Tech rescinded. But before I do so, I just want you guys to know I am going to be pushing this week very, very hard. So let me tell you guys what's going on here. Lakers got a game coming up on April 2nd against the Oklahoma City Thunder. So the Lakers will be playing the Oklahoma City Thunder. It's in OKC. I'm going to be doing my post-game show from Harris Resort SoCal. So I got 10 of these that I have available for listeners. And I really, really would love to have some listeners join me down there. Again, this is going to be a little bit more of an exclusive event. That's kind of the idea and the concept. But look at the room rate that Harris Resort has given us for that night. $99 for that night. The idea is at 6:30 when that Lakers game starts, I got this section that they got for us too, which is called Corked. I think that's the room. It's got a bar right in front of it. We'll have TVs right there. Again, I'm trying to make this a little bit more of an intimate atmosphere, something along those lines. We got 10 rooms at that $99 rate that we're going to be selling for that night. What am I going to be doing? We'll do a viewing party for the Lakers and the Oklahoma City Thunder game. And then I'm going to do my post-game show right there from there as well. Any listeners that come out, you want to ask questions, things like that, just like you guys do in the chat, I'm going to bring you guys on the show. I got a really cool setup for that area. Hopefully this gives everyone enough time. I didn't want to promote this too early, but I'm going to promote it hard this week. We got about a week and a half. And again, room rate's $99 for that night. I'm also going to be giving away a $500 gift certificate to any sporting event. You guys can think about which sporting event you'd like to use that for. We're going to be giving that away on site. I also got some room giveaways that I'm going to be giving away during the week as well, but don't worry about that because you can use that. That's got a long expiration date. Can we get some of our peeps on this post-game show, or not on this post-game show, on this channel to come join me for that post-game show? We'll make it a fun night. We'll hang out. We'll watch Lakers and the Thunder. I'll do the post-game show. And like I said, $99. That's what they're doing for us. Harris Resort is. Only got 10 of these. So please, if this is something that you think you can make happen, that you're interested in, that you want to be a part of, you want to hang out with me for one of these post-game shows, this is the one to do it. April 2nd at Harris Resort SoCal, Lakers versus the Oklahoma City Thunder, and then we're going to do the post-game show right after. Now, how do you get to this website? harrissocal.com/Sliwa. harrissocal.com/Sliwa. Again, that's the website. So I have it in the link of the description of this video. If you guys want to figure it out, you think you can make it happen, harrissocal.com/Sliwa. Just 10 listeners. That's all we're looking for. 10 listeners. You could bring a guest if you want. That's completely up to you. But I got 10 of these rooms. We'll obviously take more listeners, but I got 10 of these rooms that we're going to have available for that $99 rate. Let's make it happen, everybody. Let's make it happen. Come join me. We'll have a great time. harrissocal.com/Sliwa. And then all these that continue to comment during post-game shows, you don't need to comment. You could take a seat right next to me. You can ask me a question. We'll talk Lakers basketball and react to that post-game show. Again, the website, harrissocal.com/Sliwa. I'm going to be promoting this heavy here over the next 10 days or so, and we're going to try to get a phenomenal post-game show over there from Harris in a nice kind of intimate environment. All right, Luka Tech rescinded. So I don't know what you guys thought about this. I'm not sure if people thought to themselves, I'm not sure if people, were thinking in their mind that Luka's going to probably miss the game against the Pistons. If I'm being genuine here and I'm being honest here, I thought he was going to miss the game against the Pistons. Very, very clearly. I won't BS anybody. I don't know how this rescinded technical fouls work. I mean, obviously we got more details about it and just sounded like a stupid conversation. I mean, obviously somebody making it personal. That's Badezi. If I always pronounce the name, I have trouble pronouncing that name. But they got double technical fouls in the third quarter. Luka, after the game, obviously said that he had said something about his family, and it is what it is. Here's the bottom line. He is playing tonight against the Pistons. The Lakers obviously don't have to worry about that. And however you look at that situation, I kind of liked, what Luka said. I'm disappointing my teammates. I'm disappointing my team. I shouldn't have done it, but sometimes you got to stand up for yourself. And that's basically what he was talking about, what he was referring to. And the NBA jumped in and said, all right, well, you know what? We don't think that was a proper technical foul. I thought this was interesting. He reached 16 technical fouls in 2 different seasons during his time with the Dallas Mavericks earlier in his career, only to have the 16th call rescinded both times. So it looks like here, at least as far as it appears, it looks like the Luka's been in this situation before and has had 16th technical fouls rescinded. So I don't know. It's kind of an interesting situation here. But obviously, because he could be suspended for a game, and I'm sure the league doesn't want to see him suspended. I'm sure Pistons fans out there want to see, if you bought tickets to this game, I'm sure you want to see Luka tonight. By the way, Lakers playing the Pistons coming up at 4:00 tonight. And that's going to be the case. So Luka's going to be in this game. I don't really care how we got here. I think it is advantageous that Luka sits at 15 technicals because I think he's talking to the referees less. Whatever interaction happened during that game, I'm glad to see that they could sweep that under the rug and Luka's going to play. But that was the big conversation following the game on Saturday. And it was the big conversation yesterday whether Luka's going to be able to play in this game. We know Cade Cunningham is out, and Luka's going to be able to play. So obviously good news right there for the Lakers. Good news for a lot of Laker fans that want to see this thing try to get to double digits, 10 wins in a row. The Lakers will have that opportunity to do so. You know what's interesting here? I'm going to jump into a topic here that I'll go a little bit all over the place, but I'm gonna jump ahead real quick. Have you guys looked at? There was a article in Lake Show Life that says Lakers have a gift wrap opportunity to run the table in March. I don't know if you guys have looked at the Lakers schedule for the rest of March, but I'll show it to you guys because it's kind of crazy what the Lakers got in front of them and how they could put themselves in such a phenomenal position to lock up that number 3 seed a lot earlier than, it just could be one of those situations where the final week of the season, Lakers can kind of chill. Look at the schedule left for the Lakers. Okay. I think they got 11 left. Detroit obviously will be tough tonight. I don't care whether Cade Cunningham, he's phenomenal, but they're still going to be a tough matchup. The Pistons will play tough. Indiana coming up, they're a lottery team. Brooklyn at home, lottery team. Wizards at home, lottery team. Cleveland, tough game. OKC, tough game. Dallas, more interested in losing. OKC, tough game. Golden State, all over the place. Phoenix, not that they're a bad team. They're a good team, but they're going to be obviously a playing team. And then the Utah Jazz. Lakers got in front of them. I mean, how great would it be by the time the Lakers get to this Thursday game, let's call it, against the Golden State Warriors? How great would it be by April 9th? Lakers can kick back and decide, hey, do we want how hard do we want to play the rest of the season? I mean, this is what's happened in the standings for the Lakers that work to their advantage. Look at this cushion that they have. You might say, oh, Rockets are right there. They're only 2 games back. No, Lakers got the tiebreaker on them. So they're technically 3 games ahead of Houston. They're 4 games ahead of Denver if you add the tiebreaker. 4 games ahead of Minnesota if you add the tiebreaker. The point that I'm trying to make here more than anything else is this 9-game winning streak, and call it 10 games if they're able to, obviously run the table tonight against Detroit. We'll see what happens. Obviously, it's a tough game. But the position that the Lakers are putting themselves in, they got a lot of games coming up here. Yeah, you got OKC. Yes, you got a tough one against Cleveland. Sure, there's a couple of tough ones that are in the middle of it. But the Lakers have put themselves in a position that don't be surprised that they got 2-3 games left before the regular season ends where this thing's already determined. They might have that number 3 seed locked up. And is it eerily similar to what it was last year? Sure it is. I'm not, obviously we know that. I would say here's the only difference between last season and this year. I do think last year, I think the team this year is better than it was last season. So yes, if the Lakers end up winning over 50 games, which they're going to cruise to that this season. Yes, the Lakers may lock up the number 3 seed and have home court in the first round. Yes, the Lakers will have some time to rest like they did last season. All of that, I get. People are going to say, Al, but they were out in 5 games last year. Do you guys feel like this team is better this year than it was last season? Because I feel like it is. And if they got Minnesota again this year, not that Minnesota can't beat the Lakers, they can, but that's not a 5-game series. I mean, this is going to be a roll up your sleeves. And I think the Lakers learn from some of their mistakes and, obviously put themselves in a better position. And I just think they got better players. I think you want Marcus Smart in the playoffs more than you want Dorian Finney-Smith. I think you want Luke Kennard in there and not Gabe Vincent. I think you want DeAndre Ayton plus Jackson Hayes rather than just Jackson Hayes last season. So I don't think the team is the same. And I think it could obviously be very beneficial for the Lakers. So interesting to kind of see what's happened here and how this stretch of 9 games has built such a cushion for the Lakers. And we'll see, obviously, if they're able to take advantage of it the rest of the way. All right. We got some more comments that I want to get into here. and we'll keep things going here. Let's take a look at a couple of these comments here. I think this should already be considered a successful season. That's all going to depend on the playoffs, because if they're out in the first round, then I don't think you can consider it a successful year. If they're in a dogfight against the San Antonio Spurs, they're out in the second round, then I could live with that. I could call it a successful year. Last year, they had to play until second last game. This year, if they keep it up, they can rest the last 3 games or so. Plus, don't forget, they got about a week off as well. They got about a week off. Let me see here. Yeah, week off while everybody's playing the play-in tournament. So they're going to get plenty of rest. That part's not going to be an issue. For me, it's more about the Lakers getting just their health, getting guys that have had some injuries, put it that way. Lakers would destroy the Wolves in the first rounds. Rockets would play tough. Nuggets are a big no if you want to advance to the second round. And I think right now, the way it's set up right now, it's Lakers and the Timberwolves. Oh, there's a huge difference between Lakers Wolves and Lakers Nuggets. Big difference. No question about that. I think you guys would all agree with that. All right. So we're going to get ready to play this interview that I mentioned I recorded it a little bit earlier with Hunter Patterson. We're going to get ready to do that in just a second. He's going to help us preview the Lakers and the Pistons coming up tonight. Before I do so, shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. Connected with Brad on Friday. Man, this guy's helping out in so many different ways. I know he's sponsoring the show, and I know he's a big supporter of the channel, but I wish you guys knew all the back-end stuff he helps me out with. He's a business owner. He's been running his business successfully now for years. He's one of the best injury attorneys in the state of California. And he's done everything he can to try to help me out as well with the channel. So shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm on a personal level, on a business level. If you need an injury attorney, I've said this many different times, and I'll continue to say it. He's the best in the industry. You know, he's got a reputation that everybody knows. He doesn't have to be out there shouting his name, putting billboards everywhere, all that other stuff. People in the business know who Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm is. Insurance companies, they definitely know who Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm is. As insurance companies are always trying to settle, give his clients the least amount of money possible. That's not how Brad Wallace works. That's not how he operates, and they know that as well. If you are a family member or friend have been in a serious injury or wrongful death case, you can go to our URL, wallacewins.com/Sliwa, wallacewins.com/Sliwa. Go to that website. Once you get to that website, you get a free consultation. Him and his team will be able to help you. So shout out to Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm for being such a great supporter of the channel. A shout out to them, and thank you for everybody who supports our partners as well. Okay, so a little bit earlier, I did an interview with, like I mentioned, the Pistons beat writer. So I want to pop that. All right, I did mention everybody was going to have a game as I talk on my own terms here. I'm going to play this here. This is about 20 minutes long. Hunter Patterson, really, really good in breaking down the Lakers and the Pistons game coming up tonight. So take a listen to this. I'm going to let this play. I'll come back after. We'll do NBA news. I'll read some of the comments, and we'll get into our weekend recap. Thank you, everybody. Stay here. Guest today, somebody that's representing the Detroit Pistons. Want to welcome in Hunter Patterson, who covers the Pistons for The Athletic. Hunter, what's going on, brother? Thank you for coming on.
Nothing much. I appreciate you having me, and looking forward to chopping it up with you.
All right, so not a bad team to cover. I mean, you know, you were mentioning to me before we got on. You were talking a little bit about how long you've been covering the Pistons. So you came on at the right time there to cover the Detroit Pistons. So for a lot of Laker fans who are getting ready, we'll see if the Lakers a little bit later today are able to get their 10th win in a row. Talk to me a little bit about the Detroit Pistons. I know a big part of our conversation is going to be about Cade Cunningham as well and his situation, but it seems like the Pistons are still winning games. Without Cade Cunningham, what have they looked like? And then we could start talking about Cade Cunningham.
Yeah, JB Bickerstaff, he's really just shifted the trajectory of the team since he's been here. I mean, he's talked all season long, even going back to last season, about depth being a weapon for them. And I don't think anyone expected them to be as self-sufficient as they've become over the last couple seasons. But I mean, outside of Cade, Jalen Duren, he's evolved into their second All-Star. He's averaging almost 20 and 10. I believe it's 19 and 10. He just really is imposing his will and learning to score from different levels outside of being a rim running big who catches lobs, though he still does a lot of that with Cade and other guards in pick and roll situations. Duncan Robinson's been a great addition. He's stretching the floor, shooting 40% on the year from three. I mean, even Asar, he's someone who the stats might not always do his impact justice, but I think he's one of the most versatile defenders in the league. He had a career high 7 steals last game when they played the Warriors. So they're a team that is, I would say they've developed a ton of cohesion outside of Cade just being the one who has spearheaded this.
So the big news here is obviously the Cade Cunningham news that came out probably about a week ago or so, maybe a little bit less than a week ago. Mm-hmm. What are people in Detroit thinking about? You know, we're sitting here on March 23rd, less than a month from now. The first round of the playoffs will have started. Obviously, the Pistons with a little, obviously a decent cushion on where the Boston Celtics are sitting, but we'll see if they're able to hold on to that number 1 spot, and most likely they will. What are people thinking about when Cade Cunningham could potentially be available? How much concern is there of this being something that does leak into the postseason?
He'll be reevaluated in 2 weeks. So at minimum, he'll miss 8 games for the Pistons. And the 2-week mark lines up when they play the Timberwolves here in Detroit. So I'd be pretty surprised if he plays the day he's reevaluated. So It'll probably be more like 9 games at least. But I think the main thing is everyone in the organization just wants him to return to health. I think they don't want to rush him. They've had that approach, I would say, all season in terms of injuries. They've really tried to prioritize allowing people to be fully healthy before they return, so there aren't any long-term setbacks or anything that drags on longer than it needs to. So I'm not sure timetable-wise, but I think they want to allow Cade to be as healthy as possible so he can be back in time for the postseason and give them the best chance that they can have to advance as deep as possible.
Let's pretend that things just go as planned and the Pistons end up the number 1 seed and Cade Cunningham is ready to go by the time the playoffs start, or maybe it's after the first round, whatever the case is, but he's good to go and that he's there and he's available. I get it. Cause I think if you told me that, well, if that's the number 1 team in the Eastern Conference, then I'm just going to assume that they have the best chance of getting to the NBA Finals. It doesn't always work like that. Right. What is kind of the feel of the Detroit? If the Detroit Pistons got to the Eastern Conference Finals and lost, would that be considered a successful season, or is it because you're tagged with the number 1 seed and you've had one of the better records in the entire NBA and certainly in the East for as long as they've had? Would that fall short of expectations?
I think if they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, they would look at that as a success, just because internally, I think they would say that this is the timeline that they expected. But even then, those might be lofty expectations for them. I think they're proud of the internal growth that they've had in terms of Cade elevating to likely, depending on how many games he ends up playing, being an All-NBA player for the 2nd season in a row. Jalen Duren now being an All-Star. I think they are – in people I've talked to in the organization, they've taken a cautious but optimistic and opportunistic approach. So I don't think they're looking at this like we have to win the finals this year or we have to come out of the East. Obviously, that's the goal, and they've been the top seed in the East for months now. But I don't think they're putting any extra pressure on themselves internally to exceed the expectations that they've already set in terms of we are a young team on the rise and we want to go as far as possible, but it's not like we're putting a ton of pressure on ourselves to get to the finals.
Yeah, it's such an incredible season, and I find it kind of, they're in a little bit of a weird spot because you're the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, you're assuming, okay, hey, that's the team that comes out. I mean, if the Pistons got to the semifinal, or they got to the Eastern Conference Finals, and that's their season, you still see so much promise in this team and so much opportunity in this team. And that's just kind of the steps you have to take in the NBA in order to get wherever you get to. So I wouldn't be surprised. And you know, I'm thinking in my head that their future is so bright. What makes, I don't get to watch Cade Cunningham on a night in, night out basis like you do. You know, I get the privilege to see some of the other superstars in the league, like Luka, like LeBron, and, you know, all these other guys.
Yeah.
But tell me what makes Cade Cunningham such a great player, and why is he one of the future bright stars in the NBA that could be representing this league for a number of years?
I would start off with the size. He's a 6'6", 6'7" point guard who can score from all three levels. And one of the things JB Bickerstaff has given him a ton of credit for, going back to last season, is what he says is Cade's ability to eat while also not taking food off of his teammates' plate. And he's someone who, he can score at will, but he's really just dedicated to the growth of the people around him. And I think that's why we see Jalen Duren developing the way he has. And I mean, he also really prioritizes defense. And so when your star player is the one who's setting the tone defensively, and Asar is one of the best point of attack defenders in the league, so he'll usually take the opposing team's best perimeter player. But Cade is averaging a career high in steals. He's had multiple games this season with 3 or more blocks. And so he's someone who just sets the tone on both ends. And JB, again, has spoken to the fact that he's just a natural leader who, in my short time being here, I can see the way the guys in the locker room gravitate toward him, but he doesn't try to isolate himself because he's the guy. Like, he's at that level, but he wants to be one of the guys while also there is that clear kind of pecking order.
I'm an outsider looking in on that Eastern Conference. I'm not watching every game. Every time, obviously, one of these teams play the Lakers, we analyze it, and I enjoy watching some of these teams in the Eastern Conference. We got last couple of games, got a chance to see Miami and Orlando, so we're getting a little bit of taste of some of these teams in the East. What do you think is, what are the Pistons missing? Because if I look at the Eastern Conference, this is what I would say. I would say that I'm surprised if the Boston Celtics are not in the NBA Finals, right? That's how I kind of look at the Eastern Conference. Now, granted, if you had asked me that a year ago, I probably had the same opinion.
Right.
And Pacers ended up there. So I guess the question is, if you looked at the Eastern Conference, who would be your favorite to get out? And if it is the Boston Celtics or the Knicks or whatever the case is, how far are the Pistons away from whichever team that is? And what are they missing in order to get there? Is it just time and experience, or is there something else?
I think depending on how Cade's health is going into the postseason, they could be a formidable team to make it out of the East. If not, the Pistons, Celtics look amazing. It's incredible how Tatum is. I mean, it didn't really seem like there was much rust when he came back. It didn't seem like he had a hard time being reacclimated into the lineup. So the Celtics, I mean, they're second for a reason, and I think they could give the Pistons problems. I also think the Cavs have a pretty good chance as well. James has been playing well since being traded to the Cavs. He and Donovan are obviously a super dynamic backcourt. They have Dennis Schroeder, who was here last season, who helped the Pistons in the postseason. Keon Ellis is another guy who comes off the bench and makes an impact. So that guard room alone is extremely impressive. Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, those guys are all really impressive. And the Pistons have played well against them this year, but they do have more postseason experience than the Pistons. So I think it's just a matter of learning in the postseason. It's hard to put those expectations on a Pistons team that this group has yet to win a playoff series. So it would be extremely impressive if they did advance to the finals. But I think just the lack of postseason experience they have. Obviously, Duncan has been in a couple finals now with the Heat. Tobias has gone deeper in the playoffs than most of the team. But I think collectively they may need just a bit more experience. And if there were any two teams above them, I'd say, and not necessarily above them, but that I'd say other than the Pistons could advance to the finals, it probably would be the Celtics or Cavs.
You know what? I think there's some similarities in the West and the East. So I'll give you a team. I have some hesitation with the Spurs just because of experience. Right. And right now, if the Lakers, if they were in the postseason and they got out of the first round, it'd be a 2-3 matchup. They go up against San Antonio. Mm-hmm. Well, the San Antonio's been incredible all year. They got one of the best players in the world, as do the Pistons. The Pistons have been incredible all year. But you lean towards the Oklahoma City Thunder because they've been there, they've done it. Wemby doesn't have any playoff experience. Right. And I lean towards the Boston Celtics because they've been there, they've done that, they've won an NBA championship. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that it's going to go chalk and it's going to go exactly how, we might predict it. But I think there's some similarities there. It's nothing the Pistons had done wrong. It's nothing that the San Antonio Spurs have done wrong. But there is an evolution once you get to the postseason. And there is that you got to take some L's along the way in order to win. Mm-hmm. But there are times you could just get to an NBA Finals. The Indiana Pacers were potentially a Tyrese Halliburton injury away from winning an NBA championship in Game 7. So it's not that it can't happen, but in a weird way, I kind of see some similarities there between the Spurs in the West and the Pistons in the Eastern Conference. Let me get your thoughts on this year, because I'm curious, and I got a couple more broad NBA questions to ask you, and I'm appreciative of your time. You didn't say the Knicks. Why not the Knicks?
Oh, man, I think the Knicks are an incredible team. I think the series last year was a lot of fun to just cover and be a part of as a media member. But the Pistons have really had their way with them this season. And I mean, the same could be said about last season. And then the Knicks came in and they had their way with the Pistons in the postseason. So the Knicks are one of those teams that do have more postseason experience than the Pistons, obviously. But I think just matchups, they favor the Pistons, I would say. And Isaiah Stewart's another person who's out right now. He's supposed to be reevaluated Tuesday, I believe, but he has a left calf strain. So if he's healthy and available for the postseason the same way Cade is, I think he matches up extremely well. He said during media day that he felt had he been healthy for the Pistons series against the Knicks last year, it would have gone a different way. So I think he matches up extremely well with Cat. Jalen Duren also is, it's night and day almost in terms of his evolution from last season to this year. So, I mean, Cade also just has his way with Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby. Jeremy Sohan even tried to step up and guard him when they played last time in the Garden, and no one really had an answer for him. So I think just matchups, I lean toward the Pistons because of how close they were last year while not being at full strength. So it would be a great series. MSG is always a great time. Those fans are some of the best in the league, I would say. So it'd be a fun matchup, but I kind of lean just toward the Pistons right now.
Well, I'm looking forward to the Eastern Conference playoffs when it comes around. We still got some time. What do you make of the Lakers? I know Lakers and Pistons are playing a little bit later today. It'll be a 4 p.m. tip-off. They've won 9 games in a row. What's crazy, Hunter, is the Lakers were kind of going through a stretch where they couldn't beat any good teams. They couldn't beat any teams over 500. They really didn't have any signature wins. And then all of a sudden, actually it started with the Knicks, if I'm being honest with you, but it was they beat the Knicks, then they beat Minnesota, and then they beat Denver, and then they beat the Rockets a couple of times. Now they've took care of business against Miami and Orlando. So that not only have they won 9 in a row, but they're beating a lot of playoff teams. Now, listen, it doesn't mean they're beating the best teams in the league, but they're beating playoff teams. As somebody that's not watching the Lakers every single day, What do you make of this heater that they're on? They've created some separation now in that number 3 spot. Luka, I don't need to tell you what some of his numbers have looked like and how great
he's been insane.
But what do you make of this Lakers run and what their chances could be in the West?
I think they look like a team that is poised for a decent postseason run. And I think it's kind of just been a matter of giving the guys time to gel. When you have high-level players like that in Luka, in LeBron, in Austin Reeves, who, I mean, really can impact the game in so many different ways individually, it's just a matter of time before they figure it out collectively. And they also had some health issues. Austin Reeves had been out for a good minute. He's back now, healthy, playing well. And I've just been not surprised. I mean, I've been a huge LeBron fan since I was a kid, but I mean, his ability to be the second, I don't want to call it second fiddle, but he's allowing Luka to just really dominate the ball offensively the way he does when he's best. And LeBron is kind of just getting in where he fits in. And some games it looks like a triple-double a couple nights ago where he's not taking a ton of shots. But he can also still step in and be one of the guys who, when the game is on the line, hand it to me and we can run some high pick and rolls, or I can be the screener for Luka and we can create mismatches all night long. So I also think Luke Kennard was a huge deadline pickup for them. Gabe Vincent is quite literally a friend of mine. I've known him since we were younger, so wishing him the best in Atlanta. But I mean, every time I watch Luke Kennard, I wonder why he doesn't shoot more. He should be taking, I would say, 6 to 8 threes a night. But obviously they have so much talent on the team that you have to allocate shots to people in a way that makes sense. But DeAndre Ayton, Dan Wojcicki, my colleague, my guy who covers the Lakers for us, he wrote a story a couple days ago about Ayton saying he had to look himself in the mirror and realize he needed to get in where he could fit in. So I think they've just had a lot of growth. Marcus Smart even has been playing well, former Defensive Player of the Year. Like, you can just go down the list of all the guys they have who have playoff experience, are high-level guys, and could eventually swing a series in the postseason. So I don't get to watch them a ton. I watch them as much as I can, but they're a team that looks like they've found their stride.
Well, I'll name off a couple of the players you went through, and I'll make sure to say this as well. The Gabe Vincent thing just didn't work out in LA, period. You know, and I've talked about that a lot. 2.5 years that he was here, there wasn't signature moments. And unfortunately for him, he was so good in Miami for the Heat that was what you thought you were going to get, and it didn't happen. So I think the fact that they ended up with Luke Kennard, you got the highest 3-point percentage shooter in the league, clearly a sniper, can space the floor.
Yeah.
Got it. And it's kind of funny, you know, because I get a lot of people that ask me the same question. It's like, how's this guy not taking more shots? The only thing I could think of, number one, he's an unselfish player. And number two, teams are just, hey, get this guy off the 3-point line because of how good of a 3-point shooter he is. But I always scratch my head when I see two guys go to one player and Luke Kennard gets a wide open 3 to end the game against Orlando. It's like, of all guys, that's the guy. But the thing that I think you mentioned
too, not to interject,
no,
I think JJ is evolving as a coach. Like those last 2 ATOs, I mean, and LeBron clearly to me got fouled on the one by
did
Paolo,
get fouled, but look at the look he was getting. 100%, you're right.
Right, the looks that JJ is able to draw up and scheme for these guys, that's also extremely impressive.
Yeah, I agree with you. And a lot of times, you know, it's I think a lot of people are waiting for JJ Redick to get a second opportunity in the postseason, because I do think that his first year as a head coach, he did get exposed in the playoffs. The roster wasn't perfect, but he'll get another opportunity. I mean, he's going to have 2 years in a row with 50-plus wins in the Western Conference. That's impressive. But the question is going to be what he does in the playoffs. And then the last thing I'll mention here that you talked about with LeBron, I do think it's incredible how quick he's just, you need me to put on a different hat, I'll put on a different hat. Right. And I don't think people maybe appreciate that enough, of just, that's what makes him so great. his entire career, I can do anything.
Yeah.
And even at this stage of his career, 23 years in, he knows he has an absolute killer in Luka next to him. And in order for the Lakers to have their best shot to win some of these games, Luka does need to have the ball in his hands and go for 40-point triple-doubles or a 60-point performance. And LeBron can just say, okay, well, there's still a lot of other things that I can do, and he's still obviously wildly, wildly effective. So I definitely, he's such a polarizing player, and a lot of times people love him or hate him. But what you need to do is just respect what he's doing, and clearly you have that observation. So
absolutely.
Should be a fun game tonight. Lakers taking on the Detroit Pistons. Hunter, I appreciate you coming on. I know it's the first time we've got a chance to connect, but thank you for coming on, and looking forward to maybe in the playoffs, depending on what's going on with the Pistons, I might have to have you come back on and we could break it down even more.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. I'd love to join and chop it up with you as much as you need me to.
All right. Well, thank you for the time. Lakers taking on the Pistons. That's coming up a little bit later tonight. All right. I'm back. All right. Good stuff there. Phenomenal stuff for first time I ever met the guy, Hunter Patterson. And like I mentioned, covers the Pistons for The Athletic. Clearly knows his stuff, gets us kind of ready for this game coming up against the Pistons. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that interview. Recorded a little bit earlier, so was able to make that happen. Good work from Hunter. How about the Gabe Vincent piece when he's like, Gabe Vincent is one of my close friends. I was like, does Gabe listen? Because I don't know if Gabe wants to listen to this pod. Not sure. I was also the same guy that was offering Gabe Vincent a free ride to the airport. I was very happy to help out any way that I could. But good stuff right there. Obviously, talking about what he was saying about Luke Kennard, what he was saying about LeBron as well. And I was kind of fine. I don't know if you guys, I know obviously a lot of people here are big Laker fans, but I love the NBA. And when I can get somebody on that is going to be hitting primarily on the Eastern Conference, tune me in a little bit. He doesn't think the Knicks are going to be a real threat. We'll see the health of Cade, Cunningham, Isaiah Stewart. They got a couple of guys that are out that aren't going to play tonight for the Pistons, but can the Pistons give Boston a run for their money? So it's going to be fun. And once we get to the postseason, he'd be a perfect guy to bring back on so he can break down some of the stuff over there in the Eastern Conference. Okay, let's take a look at a couple of the comments here, and then I'm going to get some NBA stories in here, do a little bit of a weekend recap, and then we're going to call it a day. Thank you again for being here. And I appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Okay, a couple comments here. I started a couple while you guys were doing your thing. Playoff experience is not as important as having a 7'2" monster. We're talking about the San Antonio Spurs a little bit. And my only concern I would have with Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs, he's never played a playoff game. Can I tell you something that's crazy? I was looking at this morning. So I'm looking at the NBA standings, right? And I'm like, wow, Lakers, they've won 9 games in a row. They're the hottest team in the NBA. And then I look, I'm like, no, they're not the hottest team in the NBA. Oklahoma's won 11 in a row. San Antonio's won 9 of their last 10, 5 in a row, 6 in a row, something along those lines. The Thunder and the Spurs have been doing this all season. And the Lakers are just kind of trying to work their way into the conversation. But the Spurs and the Thunder are like, yeah, it's cute. You won 9 in a row? Awesome. You've won 9 of your last 10? Yeah, we've been doing that all season long. So even with this unbelievable run that the Lakers are on, they're still 10 games behind the Oklahoma City Thunder, 7 games behind the San Antonio Spurs. So yes, the Spurs don't have the playoff experience, but they do have Victor Wembanyama. I still have a little bit of curiosity to see what happens once they get to the postseason to see what it looks like. Slee should have said he wanted to take Gabe Vincent to the airport himself. I know. When I heard him say that, when he's like, Gabe's my guy, I'm like, which Gabe? Like Gabe Vincent? OKC still does not have J-Dub. Okay, this is actually going to take me right in a few of my NBA stories here real quick. So got some notes here over the weekend and a couple of stories around the NBA. We'll start with the J-Dub one. It looks like the Thunder, Jalen Williams of the Oklahoma City Thunder to return against the Philadelphia 76ers. He's missed the last 5+ weeks due to a strained right hamstring. 11 games remaining on the schedule. Twice this year that he's had to miss some time because of that hamstring. So I'm sure at this point, the Oklahoma City Thunder have just said, well, let's just take our time with him. Let's bring him back whenever he's ready. And they've won 11 games in a row without Jalen Williams. So does that just not tell you how impressive and how good the Oklahoma City Thunder are? So something to keep in mind there as, we get through the rest of this regular season is the Thunder are doing this. They got some of their own injuries as well. Kevin Durant passed Michael Jordan for 5th on the NBA's career scoring list. The 37-year-old star was already looking ahead. Here's what he said: 4 more to go. So Kevin Durant passes Michael Jordan. Obviously, he's got some other players in front of him, some other greats. But pretty damn cool to see Kevin Durant accomplish that goal. Pretty damn impressive. Let's see what he's got here. So he's already passed Will, Dirk. Next up is Kobe, who's 4th, 33,643 points. Kevin Durant right now sitting at, do they have his point total here somewhere? I'm sure they do. All right, he's got a little ways to go. But KD passes Jordan, and who he's got left now, he's now obviously top 5 on that list here. So pretty damn cool from Kevin Durant to be making it happen at his age. And obviously number 1 on that list is LeBron. I did look at some scores for tonight. So Lakers got the Pistons. I didn't really see many other great games. Thunder and the Sixers. Spurs are taking on the Heat. Rockets are in Chicago. And really now I would just kind of pay attention to the Rockets, the Minnesota Timberwolves, and the Denver Nuggets, because the only thing now at this point kind of affecting the Lakers is how much of a gap can you get in that number 3 spot? And does it put the team in a position where they could at least potentially kind of have a few games left to go in the regular season before they can take their foot off the gas? I'd rather play Minnesota or Houston, honestly. Yeah, between those 3 teams, Denver I want to play least. Who would I want to play less? Minnesota. I think I'd want to play Houston the most. They seem disconnected and they don't have a point guard. The problem with Minnesota, they're so dependent on one player in Anthony Edwards. So a lot of that's going to depend, obviously, on his health as well. So it's going to depend on a few things, but that just kind of gives you an idea here in regards to what people are thinking in regards to those 2 teams. I'd really like to avoid Denver in that first round. And I know I've heard people say, why are you trying to dodge this team, that team? I don't know if it's trying to dodge. I think it's just, do you really want Denver in the first round? That feels like that would be a freaking headache. I prefer it's not Denver. That's all I'm trying to say. All right, weekend recap is presented by Brad Wallace and the Wallace Firm. WallaceWins.com/Sliwa. That's the website, WallaceWins.com/Sliwa. The only real thing I want to get into from a weekend recap perspective, and I'm going to be honest with everybody, March Madness has done nothing for me. Has not brought me in. I think I'll start watching now come Sweet 16, but it's done nothing for me so far. I'll watch some NBA. I have not been watching these games. All right, here's what we got coming up. And the games aren't until Thursday, Friday. Well, you'll get the Sweet 16. That will get us, by the time you get through the weekend, we'll get to the Final Four. Texas, Purdue, Iowa, Nebraska, Arkansas, Arizona, Illinois, Houston. Those are all the games coming up on Thursday. And then Friday, St. John's, Duke, Alabama, Michigan, Michigan State, UConn, Tennessee, and Iowa State. I just become a hater. I start looking at some of these teams, and I start picking and choosing which teams that I want to see lose. That's kind of the best way that I can describe everything for you. I'd take a look at a final couple of comments here, and then we're going to call it a day. Let's see what people got here. So you're missing some good games. I saw a couple things on Twitter. some kind of the end of some of these games. But to be honest, it's just not doing anything for me. Aaron Gordon makes me nervous. I'm with you. You play Denver first, so it gets easier. But it's not. You'd have to go Denver, then you'd have to go San Antonio, then you'd have to go OKC. It's just it ain't easy. Don't you want to have some of these other teams go up against each other? Let Denver play Minnesota or Houston in the first round, and then let Denver deal with the Oklahoma City Thunder in the second round. I think the right bracket to be in is the number 3 bracket. The problem is if you get Denver in the first round, that kind of that defeats the purpose there. But listen, I understand some people also say, well, who cares? It is what it is. You're going to have to face these teams at some point anyways. I get that. I understand that. I think there is some truth to that. Okay, last thing I'm going to mention here, and I'm going to push this all week. Anybody want to send me an email, you could do so as well. Harris.com or harrissocal.com/Sliwa. A week from Thursday, the Lakers are going to be playing the Oklahoma City Thunder, and I'm going to do my post-game show live from Harris. Let's watch the game together. Let's hang out together. I got 10 of these from Harris Resort SoCal, which is you can book a room for that day, that night, that Thursday for $99. We're going to make this intimate. We're going to make this a really fun event. And anybody that does book, come on and join me for the post-game show as well, Lakers and the Thunder. So I'll be taking some live questions. Love that we're doing this with Harris. The area they got us set up in is awesome. It's phenomenal. Got a bar right next to us, and you'll be well taken care of. So, again, if you can work it into your schedule, we got 10 of these that are available to sell, 10 rooms. That's what they allocated us, which is very nice of them. And hopefully you guys jump on it. And as I do my first event at Harris, a post-game show, and I do a viewing party for that game, would love to have everybody obviously come out. And let's get these rooms booked. Come join me. We'll have a great time, and I'll be promoting it all week. We'll have some great giveaways for that night as well. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for being a part of the show today. Shout out to everybody hanging out. I'm back on later tonight after the Lakers take on the Detroit Pistons. So Lakers and the Pistons, tip-off's going to be at 4 o'clock. So post-game will probably start at 7. Thank you, everybody. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Monday, and I will see you guys tonight. Thank you.